This is macosken.
Analysts analyze the Apple Car report, Apple realities, augmented and virtual, and about that thing Apple lent you. It's Friday, the 5th of February, 2021. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from macosken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by Audible. To get your first 6 months for only $9.95 a month, text macosken to 500 or visit audible.com/macosken. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macosken. There was a pretty big part that I missed on Thursday's show when talking about the latest Apple car rumor. You remember that story, the one that had Apple and Hyundai seemingly moments away from signing a deal for Hyundai's subsidiary Kia to build cars for the Cupertino company at a plant in West Point, Georgia. Yeah, what I left out, because I didn't see it, was the amount that Apple is said to be investing in the project. $3.6 billion. Sounds like a lot, mostly because it is. JP Morgan analyst Samik Chatterjee points out that the company paid nearly that much for Beats and Intel's modem business combined, with the former costing $3 billion and the latter coming in at about $1 billion. Still, Chatman says in a note to investors, highlighted by Apple 3.0, that Apple could make the $3.6 billion back easily. That's thanks in part to the size of the addressable market and without taking into account extra money Apple could make in associated services. As for what they'd be getting, Chatterjee says Apple's looking for about 100,000 cars a year to start, ramping to as many as 400,000 cars a year down the road. Now, my notes were all over the place on Thursday's macosken Live. Something that I had said was said by JP Morgan's Chatterjee was actually uttered by Evercore analyst Amit Daryanani. He also wrote a note highlighted by Apple 3.0. After pointing out the size of the investment and the steep ramp from 0 to 100,000 cars a year by 2024, aggressive target in his opinion, he moved on to two personnel moves. First, there was the reported hiring of Porsche chassis man Manfred Herrer. The second was moving Dan Riccio. The second was moving Dan Riccio from his hardware engineering position to head of some sort of secret project, answering directly to Tim Cook. The part about Riccio is the part that I thought came from Mr. Chatterjee. Sorry for the mistake. Not wanting to make a mistake of his own, Daryanani did point out that we have no idea what Riccio's actually working on, just some special project. Morgan Stanley analyst Katie Huberty got the Apple 3.0 treatment. The way she sees it, markets Apple gets into end up going through the roof. Quoting her note, Apple typically expands the size of any market it enters. At maturity, the iPod shipped more than 3 times annual peak units of its predecessor, the Sony Walkman. Despite an ASP of more than 3 times the feature phone market, smartphones surpassed the peak feature phone market size less than 10 years after the iPhone launched. Apple Watch shipments today exceed the entire Swiss watch market. In other words, applying a market share figure to the current EV market forecast is likely to vastly underestimate the size of Apple's car business in the future. Or, in other words, while the electronic vehicle market may not seem that big right now, if Apple gets in, it will get bigger. Seeming to agree with the Hube is other Morgan Stanley analyst Adam Jonas. He covers U.S. autos and shared mobility for the firm. While he doesn't say explicitly that Apple getting into EVs will make the market bigger, he certainly thinks it could. Quoting one of two notes he wrote, our forecasts for 31% EV penetration by 2030 do not give any explicit or even implicit consideration for a potential Apple car. Such a development, in our opinion, could materially expand the broader market for EVs. Now, I joked on Thursday's macosken that when it comes to Apple car, there will be no wheel to get behind. Driver free was the story implication. A couple of the analysts are at odds on that, though. While JP Morgan's Chatterjee seems stoked about the whole car thing, he can't see not being able to drive it. Not the first one, anyway. Quoting his note, while press reports continue to indicate that the plan is for an autonomous electric vehicle in production in 2024, we see the immaturity of fully autonomous technologies to be a limiting factor, with an easier path to production and market within the stated timeline by adopting only certain autonomous functionalities to deliver a semi-autonomous vehicle. Standing in opposition, the Morgan Stanley guy who doesn't follow Apple but does follow cars. In another note highlighted by Apple 3.0, our Mr. Jonas said, "We have a hard time imagining Apple entering the automotive market with a vehicle design that involves human intervention in the driving process. Just our view, but an Apple car with a steering wheel is like an iPhone with physical buttons and a coiled rubber cord connected to a wall. If we're right, then this really could turbocharge investor appreciation on the autonomous vehicle timeline." JP Morgan's Chatterjee has an overweight rating on Apple shares and a price target of $150. Evercore's Darianani has an outperform rating on Apple shares and a price target of $160. And Morgan Stanley's Katie Huberty has an overweight rating on Apple shares and a price target of $164. Now here is what stinks about going all in on one rumor. Another one can come along anytime. And here's one now. Apple Insider ran a piece in the middle of the night Thursday night, Friday morning, highlighting a report from the Japanese business site Nikkei. Citing an executive at an automotive parts supplier, says the piece, Nikkei reports Apple is negotiating deals with a number of Japanese companies that could result in contributions to a much-rumored Apple car. At least 6 companies are in negotiations, the person said. That doesn't throw a wrench in the works. Those companies could make parts that could be shipped to the States for assembly. No, the wrench lands when one Japanese supply exec tells Nikkei, "I don't know if it will be decided by the Korean manufacturer Hyundai. We are in the process of negotiating where Apple will make it." Some rumors. You know what I mean? Some rumors. Some rumors are... More news in a moment. But first, a word from Audible, the leading provider of spoken word entertainment, all in one place. That's audiobooks, podcasts, original programming, and so much more. They got a great deal for you right now. For a limited time, you can get your first 6 months of Audible for just $9.95 a month. That's kind of a huge deal. Not only do you get one premium selection per month, you also get access to thousands of all-you-can-listen-to audiobooks, originals, and podcasts. That premium title is yours to keep, while the Audible Plus titles are built for binging. I'm doing a history thing right now, with a bit of science and science fiction stacked up and waiting. What's cool is, whatever your mood, you can fill your library, picking from thousands of titles available with no worry about credits. So you get one premium title a month and tons of other titles from which to choose. Try it out for yourself. Get started today with a 30-day free trial. Then stick with Audible for just $9.95 a month for the first 6 months. Visit audible.com/macosken or text macosken to 500-500. Whether you're looking to strengthen skills, be more informed, or just be entertained, find what you're looking for with Audible. To start your free 30-day trial, text macosken to 500-500 or visit audible.com/macosken. Apple Car is, of course, not the only imaginary bit of hardware out there, and imaginations are running wild. Two stories around AR and VR today. Apple Insider ran a piece earlier this week that had JP Morgan industry analyst Yang Wei-Lun calling for an AR Apple headset by this time next year. Citing a report from China Times, Apple Insider has the analyst indicating that the forthcoming AR headset will feature 6 lenses plus a LiDAR optical scanner. LiDAR will sense the distances between real-world objects and reportedly enhance the AR experience. The analyst thinks the thing will cost Apple more than $500 to make, and that Apple will sell the thing for more than the current cost of rival VR headsets. In case you're wondering, this is not Apple's hotly anticipated pair of AR glasses. The analyst doesn't see those as likely in the next year and a half. If that sounds too unbelievable or too expensive, cover your ears. CNET highlights a report from The Information that's got Apple working on a mixed reality headset with eye tracking, hand tracking, and 8K displays. That's 2 8K displays, one for each eye. Plus more than a dozen cameras, which is how you get mixed reality, and a headband with spatial audio. How much would you pay for such a thing? Hopefully somewhere in the neighborhood of $3,000, because The Information says that's about how much it's going to cost. Probably won't need a Windows machine to run it though, so cool. I'm not sure how many more signs of strong iPhone sales we need, but we've got another one today. iMore has Qualcomm reporting numbers for the December quarter that should impress anyone. But, financial analysts. The iMore piece pulls from a report in the Wall Street Journal which says Qualcomm parlayed the global 5G rollout and Apple's inclusion of its chips in the latest iPhone models into an earnings jump that failed to satisfy investors betting phone chip sales would be even higher. The mobile phone chip maker on Wednesday said its quarterly sales rose 62% from the year-ago period to $8.24 billion. But, Wall Street expected more. The street had been looking for revenue of $8.27 billion, so only generating $8.24 billion was a miss. It's funny, the firm even beat on net income. Qualcomm got to keep $2.46 billion, where the street had only expected net income of $2.09 billion. What a disappointment. Ted Lasso, the surprise and smash hit for Apple TV Plus, is up for still more awards. I told you yesterday of the 2 Golden Globe Awards for which the show has been nominated, as well as the 3 nominations for Writers Guild Awards. Now Apple's out with another press release bragging on the show's 2 nominations for Screen Actors Guild Awards. The 2 new noms are for Outstanding Performance by an Ensemble in a Comedy Series and Outstanding Performance by a Male Actor in a Comedy Series, Jason Sudeikis. And finally today, a big bowl of boo to Apple from some developers. MacRumor says the Cupertino company is asking developer transition kit recipients for their machines back. In case you don't remember what the DTKs are, MacRumor says the DTKs were offered up on a temporary basis to developers who paid $500 for access and were aimed at giving developers a way to create universal apps to prepare for the transition from Intel processors to Apple silicon chips. They went out last June. Developers were supposed to have them for a year. It has not been a year, yet Apple wants them back. Some developers are annoyed, though Apple's sort of trying to make it up to them. Once the DTK is confirmed returned, Apple will give the dev a $200 credit toward any of the M1 Macs that are out today. I've seen some people complaining about the shorter than expected loans. I've seen some people complaining about the people complaining. Meet the new year. Same as the old year. Coming up in a few minutes, animal, vegetable, or mineral. Heroes, real and fictitious. NosillaCast's Allison Sheridan wraps the week spinning the wheel of stuff. The show is called In a Few Minutes. Look for it and subscribe wherever you get podcasts. macOS Ken Live goes live again today, 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/KenRay. Catch it live or on replay there. You can also grab the audio podcast, macOS Ken Live, wherever you get podcasts. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by Audible. Visit audible.com/macOSKen or text macOSKen to 500-500 to start your free 30-day trial. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. info@macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.